Hi everyone, so this is a quick video about the changes we've made to Management Key Stage 4 Session 1. So I'll just give you a very quick background, I guess, about these changes. So we kind of made them based on a couple of different things. One was the feedback which we've had from everyone, which was obviously, it's been a very good session for us, but obviously some of the content's quite heavy around tax bands and pay slips and that type of thing, and maybe the programme was a little bit sparse of a couple of activities in the middle, so we've kind of taken that feedback on board. The other element which has come into Key Stage 4, especially at the moment, is there have been some changes in the national curriculum around financial topics for young people of this age. So what we've looked to do, both in Session 1, but also coming in both into kind of Sessions 2 and Session 3, is actually then to bring together a few other kind of topics and concepts, and they'll kind of get weaved in throughout. So one, especially that's going to come up in this section, in Session 1, is about pensions, which we're going to touch on in this section and then come back to in Session 2 as well. So, what I'm going to do is give you a brief overview of the workshop. I'm going to run you through the content as well. A couple of bits of the order have changed, and there have been some improvements and some additions. So I'm going to run you through those, and then fairly soon we'll be filming a whole version of the workshop as well, so you can kind of see it in action. So what have we got here? At the top we've got the introduction. So the framework of what the session is achieving hasn't changed. So it is about, this session is going to help prepare you for, the kind of your next steps on in your kind of money journey, where money's coming from, at the point that you go get a job, what does that look like for you? So that bit hasn't changed. We've got just a very quick slide called Why We Do What We Do. We've got a couple of facts which come up on a PowerPoint, and the young people try and guess, well, 1.5 trillion, what do you think that is? And they give a few guesses, and they go, and then you show them actually, well, that's UK personal debt. So a couple of just kind of quick starter facts for them. And then we've got the starter activity. So obviously that can either be the quiz, which we've got on there, or the graffiti wall, or both, depending on the time you have available. But some sort of starter activity, just kind of get them into the workshop. Next up, your money journey. So this hasn't changed. This is obviously the thinking about where money will come from over various different points in our lives. So I've drawn one of those up. So this is obviously very, very similar to what you do at the moment. There's just couple of thoughts that I have about it. So obviously we've got today, obviously you may get your money from your parents, obviously you've got the 16 to 19 bursary fund, which young people may get if they're going to further education. Obviously we mentioned about student finance if they're going to university. We obviously mentioned about kind of jobs and benefits. I guess the point I wanted to make at this stage is obviously when we're putting up about pensions at the end of your life, I guess a key point now is we're going to go into pensions a bit more detail, both in this section and in section 2. So I guess one kind of very important point at this stage is let's differentiate the difference between a state pension and a private pension. So obviously state pension, part of your national insurance contributions, private one you're going to save for yourself. So that's definitely a thing that we want to make sure is clear, clarified at this stage, and say that we're going to come to kind of really go into detail and explanations about it later on, but just to kind of get that clear at this stage. Let's throw that over. So having gone through your money journey, we're then going to start obviously talking about money coming in. So we've actually kind of changed the order slightly of things that we've done. So basically we're actually going to start with minimum wage leading on to careers at this point, rather than heading straight into tax. So we're going to explore a little bit about minimum wage. Our intention is then to film actually a short video about a young entrepreneur, and someone who's kind of getting into the world of work and how he finds that. We haven't actually filmed that video yet, but that's something that's going to be coming fairly soon. So there's basically an explanation around minimum wage, check young people's understandings about what it is and also the rates, and maybe a few kind of pros and cons. about whether they think it's a good thing or a bad thing. And then we're going to go into careers. So the careers have changed slightly, a couple of kind of thoughts about them. One is that we've changed the laminates that the young people look at. They were quite a bit too wordy, not very accessible before. So as an example, they might look like something like that. So got some key boxes, some key information, a few more bullet points, hopefully a bit more accessible for the young people. So, but essentially the career kind of cruncher activity has stayed the same. The young people in pairs, threes and groups explore the careers, and then the feedback sheets, kind of pros and cons, is still roughly the same. We've made a few edits to it so they can kind of rate their careers out of 10 on various different bits, but essentially the activity is more or less staying the same. So we've done careers, we're then moving into payslips. So, I guess the messaging here is, okay, so it's interesting, you've started to think about a few different jobs and what that looks like for you, but actually then what about the pay? So, if you get this job, how are you going to get paid? What's that going to look like? So let's have a look at a payslip. So there's a payslip up on the PowerPoint, which is very similar to what people have seen before. And I guess it's from that point which we're then highlighting, okay, so what's this money coming off here? Okay, we've got tax, we've got national insurance, those are the deductions. Let's actually explore a little bit about tax. So it's at that point that we're then going to go into tax bands, which again more or less stay the same, but one kind of point just to note, I'll hold up the computer screen here, hope you can see, is you'll notice that with the bands, we've actually change the figures to hopefully make it a bit easier to understand. So instead of having to say, right, your personal allowance is your 9,440, and then for the next 32,000 and onwards, you pay 20% of that, and then 1,445. What we've done is add that on. So actually it says 0% for the first 9,440, but then you pay 20% up until 41,450. So hopefully then for young people that will be a bit easier to understand in terms of they understand it's within that bracket as opposed to on top of a personal allowance. But essentially the main focus of what we're doing there hasn't changed. So we're talking about pay slips, talking about tax bands. What we then wanted to do, I guess, also was to bring in, aim more activities into this workshop, but also challenge the young people a little bit more. So we've brought in a couple of maths activities. So one of them then is about calculating tax. So the young people will still have their career crunchers out on their page, their careers. So for example, this one I showed you earlier was Tom the Banker. So having looked at a payslip on screen, having talked about tax bands, we're then going to get them to look at the career they've looked at and the payslip associated with that career. So for each career you have on a laminate, you will also have the accompanying payslip for that. And what we've done is to create two different versions of an activity. The higher ability version, which is actually a version which we more or less want the vast majority of the young people to do, is to get Tom the banker's payslip if they're looking at Tom the Banker. So get that like this, they get to explore it a little bit, but you'll notice that on the right hand side the tax bit is blank. So what we'd like them to start to do is to try and work out how much tax Tom is paying on a monthly basis. So to help them do that, we have a PowerPoint slide which will show them how that gets worked out. So there are a couple of kind of maths bit on there and the pay slips all on one slide, so that they can take that. They know that Tom the Banker's on 50 grand a year, so they can work out, okay, well he falls into a bit of the 20% and a bit of the 40% tax bracket. Let's work that out then on a monthly basis. And from the trials we've done, most students can work it out. So it's a little bit challenging for them, but I think a good challenge for them to do that. So vast majority of students, we want them to work out the tax. If the group you're working with, that really just isn't kind of up their street, they actually don't really have the kind of maths capabilities to even kind of approach that. I guess what we do have then is the same payslip but with the tax filled in. So this isn't that they don't actually do anything on the sheet, but what they would do would be they could have a look at the tax and work out just which brackets the person would fall into. But as I say, I think we want the majority of students to go down the route of trying to work out the tax. And then of course what you can do is give out the filled in version as the kind of the answer sheet as well. So once they've had a go working out, you think, have you got it right? Okay, brilliant. Well, I'll come round and give you like the kind of the full pay slip to see if you've got that right or not. So hopefully that's another kind of bit with a fuller activity in there, which will challenge students in a bit of a mathematical way as well. So we've got calculating the tax. We've got a short just explanation about national insurance. We then actually just wanted to highlight, I guess, the difference between kind of a pay slip when you start working, maybe when you get your first job, and a pay slip maybe, kind of maybe when you're into your career, as it were. So what we've got then is actually a second pay slip, which looks like this. So very similar, but what you'll notice has both student loan and pensions coming off. So I guess what we're doing is we're highlighting the fact that there are more than just tax and national insurance as deductions. You can actually have other things coming off, and why would you do that? So we're not obviously going into a massive explanation here about student finance, but obviously, you're making that link. Well, this person may have gone to university, taken a student loan to do that, so they might then in theory have a higher paid job and have to be paying off a little bit for that, so you can kind of help make that link. But also there's this thing about pensions, and then there's a splat that comes up on screen that looks like that, which is highlighting to you that when you get a job, there may well be company benefits, and that could be around, dental insurance, company car, but certainly we want to bring in this idea of pensions, about the fact that your employer may well offer you a pension, at which point they will contribute into that, and that's the kind of topic we want to come to. So I guess in terms of pensions, we're doing a couple of things. In this section specifically, what we want to do is A, explain how they work, and B, explain the